Hello and welcome to Investing Confidential. I'm a little under the weather, but I had to make this video because I'm live here watching this Powell character talk about why he cut 50 basis points, which was expected. And I think the most important thing, folks, you got to put this stuff into perspective. Okay, I mean, 50 basis points. Everyone's just inflation. They want rates to go up. Everyone, you guys are all sucked into this zero rate policy. This was a fantasy. Okay, the market is a fantasy. Zero rates are a fantasy. They don't work. They've never worked. Zero rates. They've never been zero rates except during this post-pandemic and for Europe even pre-pandemic period, where central banks believe they're more powerful than the government. They're more powerful than business cycles. And so what they decided to do, they decided to control everything, control the stock market, control financial assets. And this just tells you the extent of the manipulation. But forget what I'm saying. Let me just show you. Let's go back, as you can see here, to 2002. This is going to show history here. So in 2002, we were coming off of the bubble in the tech sector. Markets were down substantially, and you could see here during the 2002, beginning of 2003, the Fed cut 75 basis points just to get things going again. Okay, and obviously that's a year after 9/11. So I mean, the markets were down quite substantially. The market peaked, I believe, in 1999. This is the S&P now, and then rose again. So double top, and then the market crashed or went down substantially, and the Fed cut. Remember, the Fed is not here to protect inflation. Interest. The Fed is here to protect financial assets of the wealthy class, the private equity, venture capital, Wall Street guys. That's what the Fed's doing. Since Greenspan, the Fed has changed. They don't care about you. They don't care about Main Street. They care about Wall Street. Okay, so that's 2002. So let's look at the next period to the Great Financial Crisis. Okay, so the Great Financial Crisis, you can see here, the Fed obviously had a lot of cuts, okay, substantial amounts of cuts, hundreds of basis points starting from 2007 down to 2008. Again, the markets were collapsing, and the Fed again wanting to bail out Wall Street and everyone else, the government, this time a Republican government, and then into the Democratic government. They decided to cut hundreds and hundreds of basis points and splash money into the system, and boom, stock market recovered. Okay, and now let's look at the situation we have today. So going back 5 years, you can see here we're going back to the rate cuts in 2020, and obviously they had to cut rates in 2020 because we had this so-called pandemic, so-called recession, and the markets collapsed, and the Fed again had to help Wall Street and everyone else. So they said, okay, the rates are already low, let's cut them to zero. And this began the great experiment of cutting rates to zero. And then you could see here, now in today's period, we just had a 50 basis point cut. Now, all those charts I show you, what is the great equalizer here? What is the common denominator? Excuse me, the common denominator. Common denominator was the Fed cuts rates and the markets are down to save Wall Street, to save the incumbent administration. This is what the Fed does. And this is what the Fed has done going back 30 years before everything. The Fed is there to save Wall Street, to save the incumbent government. So today we have a new situation, historical. I've never seen it before in history of anything. We have a central bank cutting rates, big cut today, at all-time highs. Okay, the market's not down. Real estate is at all-time highs. S&P is at all-time highs. Dow's at all-time highs. NASDAQ at all-time highs. We've never seen anything like this. Nobody's pointing that out. See all these idiots asking questions right now? Okay, here's Powell. Remain squarely focused on achieving dual mandate goals. Bullshit. You remain focused on helping your buddies on Wall Street, helping the private equity guys. You're in their pocket. You're their you're their puppeteers. You're the puppet. Okay, unemployment at 4%. That's normal. If it was 7%, I guess if I went back and showed you those same charts, unemployment was definitely higher than it was today. And the Fed cut rates. Okay, it is what it is. They tried to manipulate things, and they were successful. Today, we have a massive cut, relatively speaking, with the S&P and the Dow and gold and real estate and Bitcoin and every single financial, I can't think of a financial asset that isn't all-time highs. Never seen it. 30 years in the markets, never seen it. And I never will see it again. This is the end of this nonsense. This is what you call, folks, a classic policy error. Now, Powell was forced into it. There was no doubt he was going to cut. There was no doubt. The pressure in an election season was just too great. And inflation, they're saying it eased. Inflation has not eased substantially. So when the cost of food goes up 30%, and then it's now going up only 2%, is that easing inflation? No. That's just saying costs is going to remain. When the cost of cars have gone up 30, 40, 50%, and they can't sell them anymore, but they're not lowering the price. They're just giving you 0%. So prices are not coming down. They're staying where they are, so the inflation is locked in. Locked in, folks, until the deflation comes, which is coming. But that's another video, another story, another day. So today we have this moron, Powell, again, in the hands of the private equity, cutting rates at all-time highs in the stock market. All-time highs. All-time highs for all financial assets. Look, I'm not going to make any conclusions here. You make your own conclusion. But there's something smelly here. Okay? They revised numbers, all of them lower. So the economy, when government numbers come out, they're completely false. They revise them the following month, the following quarter, lower, lower, lower. Those are manipulated. People are as rich as they've ever been, going back to 1929, stock market and everything else, real estate. And this guy's cutting rates to support all-time high stock markets. It's like what we've seen over the last 2 years with buybacks. Okay, buybacks used to be when your stock was down, when you thought it was undervalued, you'd buy back your stock. Now it's just, hey, I got stock options. I need to buy my stock. I need to make more money. I'll buy the stock at all-time highs. I don't care. I'll keep driving it higher. And I'm not going to show this, but I've showed it before. All the gains we're making in the stock market are due to buybacks. They're not due to people buying stocks in the market by BlackRock or anything. It's due to buybacks. They borrow money. Okay, it's all borrowed money. Most of it anyway. And they buy back stock at all-time highs. Buy, and it keeps going up. It works until it doesn't. So enjoy it while it lasts. All-time high stock markets. The Fed wants to rip into the election. Okay, not the election. The election is only that matters. We need to keep the economy high for the incumbent administration. This is what it's all about. And they're goosing it. Is it going to work? I don't think so, but who the hell knows? Would I sell stocks? No way. Fed's now going to cut more. They tell you going to cut 100 basis points. Only some shock, only a shock in the system. They think it's going to help the deficit. It's not. The deficit is exploding and will continue to explode. And at some point, it's going to be over. But for now, the party continues at all-time highs. This is an historic day, folks. Remember this day. The Fed cut rates at all-time high stock markets. Never, ever, ever, ever has this happened before in any country, by the way, because central banks do this all the time. Never seen it in any country, anywhere in the world. You never think that this would happen in the U.S. Never, but it has. I have zero faith in the Fed, zero faith in politicians, zero. But we're all along for the ride. But man, if you're an investor, you better be very, very careful out there.